Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is TB Skyn, and I'm a little late to this particular party, but let's talk some about Gun Goddess Misfortune. For those who don't know, she is the latest ultimate skin to be revealed for League of Legends, the highest grade of cosmetic that it is possible to purchase for that particular video game. But upon her reveal, a lot of people were kind of disappointed. They felt like she didn't really have enough features. She didn't really have enough new stuff, new tech, new innovations under the hood to justify calling her an ultimate skin at all, or indeed the price point that Riot wanted to charge for her. Riot, for their part, seemed to agree at least partially with those sentiments because they're releasing her at a lower price point, and a lot of their communication around her has been sort of semi-apologetic, talking about how they couldn't really find a way to innovate with the technology enough to create a skin that was as cool as previous ultimate skins, but nonetheless they feel very strongly that she's a very cool skin and she's worth calling an ultimate, and here's a price reduction and we're releasing her anyway. I've been reluctant to make a video about the subject because I struggled to find something interesting to say that hadn't been said already. There have been a lot of Reddit threads, there's been a lot of discussion, there's been a lot of discussion on the forums and the boards about the features that Gun Goddess Misfortune has, the features that she lacks, how she compares to previous ultimate skins, and Riot, for their part, have taken all that criticism into account and decided to nonetheless release her as she is anyway, with a few alterations to some of her texture work, but releasing her pretty much in the same state as they revealed her. So in that sense, the conversation is kind of over. There really isn't that much left to say, so it's taken me a while and quite a bit of thinking to come up with an angle on this that I thought might be interesting. And I think I've got one. Because I think Gun Goddess Misfortune was inevitable. When Pulsefire Ezreal was released back in the day, he was revolutionary. He was something entirely new in League of Legends. He was a skin with features and qualities that had never been seen in any skin in League of Legends ever before. He represented something entirely new when it comes to skins. The same thing happened when Spirit Guard Udyr was released. He had all kinds of particles and transformations and all kinds of new stuff going on with him that nobody had ever seen on any skin before, and a huge launch event with a comic and all kinds of stuff going on that hadn't been done for a League of Legends skin ever before. When DJ Sona came out, she had her own freaking soundtrack, and a whole bunch of new audio tech had to be implemented into the game to allow her to play music to multiple members of her own team as she runs around on the battlefield and changes shape, and all kinds of good stuff going on there. When Elemental's Lux came out, the previous ultimate skin, she was essentially a bundle of 10 skins or something like that, bundled into one, or maybe it was 9, with a whole minigame concocted around gathering elemental energy and changing into different forms as the game goes on. And so we get to Gun Goddess Misfortune, and there's nothing that new about her. She's not a bad skin. I feel like that should be said up front. She's a great skin. In fact, she's really freaking cool. She has all kinds of cool features, but we've kind of seen all of them before. The ability to change shape over the course of the game, well, Elementalist Lux had that. Unique voice lines and interactions, yeah, well, you can find those on Spirit Guard Udyr and Ezreal as well. There wasn't really anything new about her. She was just a really cool, well-made skin of about the same quality as we have seen before. And this was inevitable. In all creative endeavors, in all kinds of creative fields, whether it's skins in a video game, or novels, or manga, or anime, or cartoons, or comics, or writing, or music, whatever it may be, everyone who's ever engaged in a creative endeavor knows or will come to know the wall. The wall is essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a thing that prevents you from going any further. It's a point that you reach as a creative entity, where you have to come to realize that you have reached the limits of, sometimes it's your skill, sometimes you just haven't learned enough to overcome the wall to get to the other side. Sometimes you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough time, enough money, enough manpower. It can be any number of things, but whatever the cause, the end result is that you're sitting at the wall, and while you can still do all the stuff you've always been able to do, you can't take it that one step further. You can't take it to the next level. Every visual artist I've ever known knows this feeling where we read tutorials and we take art classes and we learn and we try and do new stuff with our artwork, but no matter what we do, we just get stuck. It seems like everything we draw is at the same level as what we've drawn before, and we don't know why we can't go any further. And for comic artists and writers and musicians, they are intimately familiar with this sensation as well. All of them, I can promise you. And That's what happened to Riot with Gun Goddess Misfortune. At least that's what I think. And the reason it happened is because they got trapped in escalation, which is something, again, every creative person on Earth will know that feeling. The escalation problem is something I've talked about on my channel before. I'm going to leave a link to a video down in the description I did about Bleach and about how the escalation problem applies to storytelling in shonen manga in particular. But in this case, Riot released Pulsefire Ezreal as a revolution. Spirit Guard Udyr was a huge step forward. DJ Sona was amazing. Elementalist Lux was unprecedented, and they've escalated so far and they have run so far up the bell curve that it has finally started to flatten. They've finally started to hit a plateau where no matter what they do, they can't really add more stuff into the game, because there's lots of stuff you could do to improve Gun Goddess Misfortune. You could give her more unique animations. You could add more different exosuit forms to her skin line. You could add more particles. You could give her more voice lines, but none of that would really be new. None of that would really be spectacular or revolutionary. None of that would really take her to the next level. It would just be polishing her as she already is. And I don't really know what I can say about Gun Goddess Misfortune in particular, except that this is probably just something we're going to have to accept as an audience now. Now, Riot's fault, the thing I'll blame Riot for, is not recognizing this ahead of time and not pacing themselves better, not managing expectations, because this is the kind of thing that you really should be able to see coming. This is the kind of thing, like I said, that's inevitable, that's always at some point going to happen. Riot should have been able to see this coming, and they should have been able to modulate or at least temper the expectations of their audience so that when Gun Goddess Misfortune was released, she didn't come across as a disappointment. They should have been able to go out to their public and say, you know what, Ultimate skins have been really, really cool in the past few years, but at some point we're gonna hit a wall. We're gonna hit the limits of what we can really do with the new tech in the game. And to their credit, they've tried. They've released her at a lower price point. They released a video talking about it. They tried to mollify people a little bit, but they got trapped in escalation. They painted themselves into a corner from which anything they did was inevitably going to be kind of a disappointment. And I don't think I can really offer any cool conclusions on Gun Goddess Misfortune herself, except to say that creative people of the world look at Gun Goddess Misfortune and take it as a cautionary tale. Take it as a cautionary tale that if you don't pace yourself a little bit, if you don't temper your expectations a little bit, if you don't get used to being satisfied with the level where you're at instead of being relentlessly driven to try and hit the next level every single time, eventually you're going to hit the wall. Eventually you're going to get burned out. Eventually you're going to be disappointing your audience, and it's going to suck. It's going to suck. It doesn't have to happen. It probably will, but it doesn't have to happen, and there are ways to mitigate it. There are ways to soften the blow when you eventually run into this wall. Be okay with not always pushing it to the next level. Be okay with sometimes just treading water for a while and letting things flatten out and get ready to chart yourself a new course in some interesting direction. Don't always push for the next level, because at some point you're going to find that the next level is too far up and you don't have a tall enough ladder. Anyway, if you have any comments, thoughts, suggestions, you can leave them down in the comments. I know this was a bit of a weird take to have on a skin for League of Legends, but it was the most interesting thing I could find to say about it. My name has been TV Sky, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for getting me to like 18,000 subscribers at this point. That was a bit of a surprise. And I will see you, I suppose, in the next video.